Welcome to Heart Collaborations, where we explore the heart of wellness, mental and emotional well-being, relationships, personal passions, and thriving parenthood. Hi, I'm Annette.
And I'm Anita. Collectively, we have over 50 years in the educational and mental health arenas. Whether you're looking for information, personal stories, or just a place to feel seen and heard, you're in the right place. Join us as we dive into conversations that inspire, empower, help you grow, and add a little laughter to your life.
Hey, welcome. We're so glad that you're joining us at Heart Collaborations today. And today's episode is a pretty cool one, I think.
A real cool one.
I think parents especially are going to be very interested in this particular one. Mm-hmm. And it's when helping hurts, rethinking how we support anxious kids. You know, I know that a lot of times parents, when they have anxious kids that are really struggling with problematic anxiety, they begin to question themselves. You know, they oftentimes feel a sense of guilt, a sense of shame, and they're wondering, what have I done that has caused this? And the answer is probably nothing. Yes.
So I was just going to say, this podcast is small, but our book study is going to be really intense. So I hope that you guys join us on our book study for When Helping Hurts.
And when we say intense, we mean it in a good way, right?
Oh yeah. Of course. You know, it's like when like minds come together,
right?
You know, and then it's like a lot easier to dive into and really talk about things that are really happening. But also when we are with like-minded people,
we feel that sense of security, that sense of community.
Yeah, we've got that rapport, we've got that trust, and we can be able to share things. So.
And that's where, you know, that keyword in our podcast title and our LLC title, collaboration, comes in.
That's right.
Hey, let's give a big shout out to the Meeting Place, Farmers Branch, Texas, and Rob Bliss for always welcoming us. It's a space where you can come and have a workspace. Network. They have great programming that happens throughout the week. So go on and check out their website, look at their calendar, and see what all they have to offer here at the Meeting Place.
And I was going to say, if you are around here, ask for a tour and check out the Zen Room because it is amazing.
Yeah, and I want to mention once a month, they have a comedy show, usually on Friday night. So that's another thing you can be looking for on their calendar. It's really great. I've come and had a great time.
Yeah. Actually, one is coming up pretty soon, next Friday, I believe.
All right.
Next Friday. Yeah. Okay, well, let's get into it, Annette.
Let's do it. So we're looking, we're going to start with insights from Breaking Free of Child Anxiety and OCD, a scientifically proven program for parents by Eli Lebowitz.
I loved this book.
Tell me. Don't leave me hanging with just saying you love it.
When I first started reading this book, I thought this doctor is actually giving us solutions. Like we're not just reading about a problem. He's actually giving us solutions to follow, steps. And one of the programs that he has is called SPACE. He's a professor at Yale, and he does the SPACE program, supporting parents of anxious, emotional childhood, something like that. Okay. What was it?
So I have to kind of go through it, but it's supportive parenting of anxious childhood emotions. There we go. We got it.
So, but you know, the steps that he gives are anybody can follow them if you read the book, and it is so helpful.
Yeah, and I know that, you know, parenting is in the title, but and he makes this clear as well that it's not limited to parents. It's any caregivers, and there's, you know, something for all of us to learn in this particular book, right? So educators, I can see where it'd be really, really helpful. Yeah. So let's talk a second about Dr. Lebowitz and his background. He comes from Yale School of Medicine Child Study Center. He's a co-director of the anxiety program there. Yeah. He's got several other books. He's got a TED Talk. And this past week when I was, just doing research, is I found all kinds of YouTube videos with him, and they were great. I mean, they were worth my time. Now I have to admit, and I think everybody should, but I do speed it up a little so that it doesn't. I bet people out there are wishing they could speed us up a little bit, and you can.
You're like
speed us up. Go to 1.5 speed and do it.
Oh goodness. So when he's talking about anxiety, he's talking about 7.5 of children that are actually right now feeling that anxious, and that would be 2 students in a classroom of 25.
Yeah.
And that is already too many kids. Too many kids experiencing, anxiety, which is a fear or a dread or an uneasiness. And sometimes we feel it in our body,
Yeah. So we're going to.
And sometimes it's our thoughts or our behaviors or our feelings.
And those are the 4 domains that Dr. Lebowitz, expounds upon about how anxiety impacts individuals, right?
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Well, in terms of, how the body might feel, muscles might be tense, they might have a headache. A real common one is people complaining of stomach ache, nausea, cramps, that sort of thing.
That's why it's really hard when a kid tells you, my stomach hurts, I don't want to go to school.
Yeah.
And it's probably that.
Where does the physical end? Where does it, right?
Yeah.
What's the core root of that situation? Sometimes it's really hard, and that causes a lot of anguish in parents, So in terms of talking about the myths, and I love this is something we're going to be expounding on in future episodes, talking about really how anxiety shows up, anticipatory anxiety, unwanted intrusive thoughts, all those kinds of things. So some thought myth busters, okay? There are a lot of myths about thoughts. And so we want to educate ourselves on what are those myths, and also, what are some mantras? What are some facts that we can teach not only ourselves, but kids that are in our lives about these? And so one of them is that, guess what? Everybody has intrusive thoughts. They might not even label them as intrusive thoughts, right? Or understand that that's what they are.
They may not even know it's happening.
They have these thoughts that they're questioning or curious about, or maybe even scared of.
Yeah.
So it's important to know that that's normal and everybody has that. You want to share any, or you want me to keep going?
Well, I was just going to say, when we have those thoughts, it doesn't represent us. It's not who we are.
Big one. Such a big one.
Not part of our character.
Right. Because people will have a thought that maybe is not socially appropriate, is what they're thinking, right? Really, all thoughts are socially appropriate because they're just freaking thoughts. And if we leave them along, they'll just be like a cloud and they'll pass through, right? But when we think that they tell a story about us, when they think they reflect our character,
that's when it's hurtful.
Right. That's when it becomes a problem, where it scares us, where we have a sense of shame surrounding it. And so really and truly today, I'm excited about this, a little high five, because right now we're sharing information that's going to bring freedom to people. And that gets me fired up.
Oh, yeah.
What a blessing to be able to share, information that we get that's going to make a difference for people. We're not even going to talk about it.
These busting myth thoughts are, they are something else.
Yeah.
The main thing is that we have to remember that they can be, like you said, like a little cloud just passing by. They can fleet through our minds, and we don't pay much thought to them. But if we start catering to those, that's when we start having the problems. It's when, it's kind of like, I remember growing up, we used to say, don't step on the crack or you break your mama's back.
Right.
And even as an adult, I'm like, I'm not going to step on the crack, because I remember that,
Right.
And so it's just things like that. Imagine having that intrusive thought that comes in, and it's kind of like, oh, I'm fearful of water, right?
Right.
Or the water's going to come out really hot. And so it's kind of like, oh, it changes our life, our routine about how we do things. And that's when we need to seek help, because it's more than that.
All right. So I've noticed a theme that you gravitate a lot toward water. And you use it in a lot of your analogies.
I love water.
And so I think it's a theme, and I want to know what's behind that, but we'll figure that out on another day. I love it. And and water is life, right?
Yeah.
And
Energy.
if you think, yes.
Actually, water is energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you think about, how much of our body is composed of water and all that, it makes very good sense.
And we were just talking about fishing.
Very good sense that you're...
So
that you're
the
right.
intrusive thought was water, we were talking about fishing earlier.
Right.
So yeah.
So just realizing and teaching that thoughts stick because of the energy that we expend to fight them. So as I remember when I was teaching my son to ride a bike, and it was one of his first times where he was pedaling on his own. He just left my hands and he's going down the sidewalk perfectly. And there was a mailbox off to the side, and I go, hey, don't hit that mailbox. Well, he was going fine until I said that. As soon as I said that, what does he do? He starts veering toward that mailbox because his focus had become on that mailbox, and then a little bit of fear set in, like, oh, crap, I'm going to hit that. And
he hit the mailbox.
Hit that mailbox. Where if I hadn't brought that to his attention, or hadn't reinforced that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So what we focus on and what we exert our energy in, that causes it to be more sticky.
Yeah.
Behavior.
Oh, wow. So like I said earlier, with the water, and with like not stepping on a crack, that behavior changed for me, because now I'm not stepping on any sidewalk cracks, right? But, it's just the simple things of like, checking, making sure I lock the door before I go to bed,
And to check it once is very normal, appropriate behavior, right? But if it begins to alter our routine, our daily, how we're living our lives, where we're spending more time checking to make sure the door's locked than we are brushing our teeth and getting ready for bed and all those kinds of things, then that's a red blinking light.
Yeah,
right? That we might want to pay, do some research on that.
Yeah, and so we might see a few changes in appetite, cleanliness for kids. They don't want to be alone. But oppositional oppositional behavior.
Yeah.
Is what I was thinking.
Right.
We think, oh, well, why don't the kids just do this? It's so much easier for them just to do it.
They're just trying to be a pain in the butt, right?
Yeah.
Like we just think they're purposely trying to be a pain in the butt. And sometimes that is the case because that's part of growing up and it's a normal, natural maturation thing. Yeah. Okay. But sometimes that oppositional behavior shows up as a result of what?
Anxiety.
Anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, having an understanding of what's behind the anxiety can be very helpful. Also, that word anxiety creep, that's a word that people need to be familiar with. Anxiety creep is where, and we'll use the word trigger, where trigger begins the anxiety, or perception of a trigger causes the anxiety. I'm looking for another word other than causes, but anyway, anxiety is a result of a trigger. And then
you're missing your favorite word.
What?
The whoosh.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get to that whoosh. And we're going to get to that whoosh. Right.
Because, anyway, I forgot what I was going to say. But, but yeah, go ahead. I forgot.
Well, and then, so anxiety creep is where we go from being anxious about one thing and we're feeding that through attention and that sort of thing. And we begin to have anxiety about other things as well. So that anxiety grows, right? So feelings is another area that is impacted by anxiety.
Yeah.
Such as fear, anger, rage, depression. There's a really strong
connection.
Yes, connection
with depression.
With depression and anxiety, yeah.
I always say they're like cousins.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll find them and sometimes you won't. Yeah. So the anxiety system, it's made out of 3 parts.
Mm-hmm.
And those 3 parts, tell us, okay, this is what's going to happen. It starts with the thalamus, with the trigger, the thalamus. And then it tells us, okay, this is going to happen. And so then it starts from there.
Yeah. So that thalamus perceives that trigger, right?
Mm-hmm. That switchboard.
Yeah. And it sends a message to, so these are, by the way, these are parts of the brain that we're talking about. So anxiety is really a part of our body system, and it serves a great purpose. It's kept us alive for millions of years, right? It's what has helped humanity survive. And so it's a good thing. And we want to celebrate it. It helps us, like if I love basketball, so I'll use a basketball example. If I'm shooting free throws, if I'm experiencing a little bit of anxiety or increased focus and motivation is a result of that. And I'm more likely, if it's at a good level, to make that free throw than I would otherwise. I become more invested in it.
Yeah. I was going to say stress. I mean, not stress, but anxiety isn't always negative.
No. Yeah.
There's a lot of positive anxiety too. Sometimes it's the catalyst for change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, that's a great point.
For a lot of positive things, but it's like when we said when it starts sticking, that we have a problem with that.
So that first part of the brain, the thalamus sends that message to the amygdala, and it happens in about 1/5 of a second. So it's really faster than a blink of the eye. And then the amygdala is the alarm system. So that amygdala reacts in those 4 domains that we talked about: the body, the feelings, the thoughts, what's the other one? Body, feeling, thoughts.
Behavior.
Yeah, behavior. Thank you. Nice. And then that alarm system goes off. So we experience those things that we just in those domains. Well, right behind that, and it's about a 1/2 second to a second longer, the thalamus sends a message to the cortex. And the cortex is the executive functioning. It's the reasoning part of the brain. And so during that reasoning part of the brain, it looks at that trigger and senses or evaluates, is that truly an alarm or was that a false alarm?
Yep.
And then it sends that message to the amygdala. And so that's all working pretty cool and good. And then once that message coming from the cortex happens, then the body's like, oh, whew. It's just a false alarm. And so the body will begin to decrease in anxiety and settle down and calm down. And that's the natural process.
Yeah. I was thinking about, as you were talking about that, how, I work with teens. So working with teens when they're having that anxiety and they come in and they're like, and I'm like, is it true or is it false?
Right.
And they're searching for evidence. And when they find no evidence, they're like, oh, okay, it's not real. So then you actually see the calming of them, coming down and thinking, okay, well, why was I so upset about it? You know, and then they get to talk about that and really decide, okay, now that I know, I don't have to worry about it.
Right.
Which is really cool to see them know that they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Sometimes anxiety shows up and it's now moved from a specific trigger to being in fear of having the anxiety. Like I'm beginning to avoid things because I'm afraid that something's going to trigger my anxiety and I'm going to experience those feelings and I feel out of control and unsafe. And so they actually, sometimes we develop a fear of feeling the anxiety.
Right. Yeah. That's anticipatory. So, it's so cool how our body and our brain are truly connected. Yeah. Here we only have 3 parts of the brain. Right. But we've got the 4 domains that are all connected to the brain.
To it. Yeah, that's,
just 3 parts of the brain. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. So when that amygdala or when a person is experiencing a heightened or a sensitivity to anxiety, that may become sticky and they may have a harder time calming down. And that's where some of the great facts and information from this book is going to, I'll use the word swoop, not the whoosh, but the swoop. Are going to swoop in and really give parents some additional information to make some changes. So when we talk about childhood anxiety, it shows up in different ways. And so there are different types. You want to kind of elaborate on those?
Oh, I can. Well, before the thought I was thinking was, I really like how this doctor wrote about he doesn't necessarily diagnose everybody with anxiety disorder. What he says is that we might be experiencing some anxiety or some anxiousness, right? But it doesn't mean that we have a disorder.
Right.
What it means is that we are experiencing things in our life that are causing us fear. And so he works with all of those things. And to me, I really like that because not everyone will have a diagnosis and not everybody meets a criteria for diagnosis.
Right.
But we can all experience anxiety and some anxiousness, right?
And we may be experiencing it at times on a problematic level. So we may have problematic anxiety, but it might not rise to the need of being diagnosed with a disorder. So childhood and adolescent anxiety can show up as some different forms. One of the most common is separation anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
And I know we're in the month we're just now about to start the month of August. And so kids are going to be going back to school for the most part in August and in September. And that separation anxiety, and that's not just for the little guys, although it shows up more in the little guys. And even adults can experience separation anxiety as well.
Oh, yeah.
Another one is social anxiety.
Oh, going back to school, the social anxiety is really high.
Can be tough, right?
Yeah. Yep. Especially for those starting like 9th grade, 7th grade, coming in. And then we have the generalized anxiety.
And we were talking earlier about some of the positive flip-flops of anxiety. So anxiety, when it's not problematic about social situations, can actually be a good thing. It can be a motivator for us to get our homework done, for us to get a project when we're going to have to do a presentation. That social little piece that we want to perform well, we want to do well.
Yeah.
And then, some other kinds of things. So it can show up in positive ways as well.
Yeah.
And then obsessions and compulsions.
Phobias.
Illness, anxiety.
Panic disorders. So just,
So those are just some of the common ways or most common ways that anxiety can show up. So thinking about, this book being really directed toward the caregivers, the parents, the grandparents.
That's what I love.
Yeah.
I love
the
that.
Educators, the teachers, the counselors, all those people, right? And one of the main facts that comes out early in this book is that when parents are helping and trying to protect, that is a very natural thing. It's a positive, right?
I mean, if our kid is suffering, we're going to do whatever it takes. If they want the house colored blue, we're going to paint it blue. I remember one of the videos that we saw with him, he talked about how a young man had an OCD with germs, and he did not want to touch the floor.
Right.
So for months, before they got him help, for months.
It was bugs. It was
bugs.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to touch the floor.
Right.
So they had him in a wheelchair, and they would wheelchair him all around the house.
Right.
And I thought, what happened when school started? I mean,
tough, right? And just parents really, like you said, trying to help and doing the best they can to help. And so we're going to help educate today by using Dr. Lebowitz information to help parents be more effective in how they're helping and understand how some of the things we do might be hurting.
Because I'm sure those parents, they went and got that wheelchair. So
they're in anguish. The kids in anguish, they're in anguish. I have great compassion.
Right. But the parents are thinking, I'm doing what I can. I'm helping. Right?
Right.
Because that is in our nature to help.
It's actually hardwired for us to respond. And, if we look back in history, that ability and the child is hardwired to seek protection. And so the child, isn't able to protect themselves, so they cry and they cling to the parent, right? And then that parent responds, and that's a healthy system. But there are some times when it can get out of balance.
Yeah.
Sometimes when anxiety comes in. So we're going to look at that.
And I know parents do their best, but sometimes we just don't know.
We just don't know sometimes, for sure.
Yeah. So should we talk about the pitfalls?
Let's do it. Yeah, for sure.
So, we were talking about like that protection of the wheelchair, and I'd say that was, they were trying to help, but it's misplaced protection.
Yeah.
And one, kind of avoiding the floor.
Right.
And so now he doesn't have to touch the floor. And I think all of that in the misplaced protection, one of those, the main things are giving him an opportunity to actually learn that, he can step on the ground and bugs are not going to crawl on him.
Right.
But how can he do that on a wheelchair?
Right. Yeah. So sometimes that misplaced protection becomes an obstacle of growth, an obstacle of change, an obstacle of healing. And then another pitfall for parents is demanding. Sometimes we think, okay, if I just set them straight about this, you are okay. If I just set them straight.
Nothing is going to happen to you.
Yeah, nothing is going to, try to do reassurance, right? And we become demanding.
Yeah.
But that doesn't usually help, right?
Right.
That doesn't make the anxiety go away,
You're right.
And so it's counterproductive. It's a pitfall. But we're going to talk about some things that will be productive.
Yes. So, when we talk about those pitfalls, we've talked about the demanding and the misplaced protection, right? And in all those, families were changing how they do things.
Right. And so they were changing their behavior.
Right. And we call that family accommodation.
Right.
Where the family is changing how they go about their business because of this one kid suffering. And so that's what we call family accommodation.
Right. Now, we do want to point out that the accommodation we're talking about here is different. In education, we use the word accommodation very frequently to apply to like 504 plans. And those accommodations, that's something totally different. But this is a term that psychologists use to, like you said, describe parent change in behavior, right?
Yeah.
So there are two main categories of family accommodations. One's participation and the other one's modification. And so let's talk a little bit about that and make parents aware of it.
So participation, I just call it enabling, really.
Okay.
But it's only because when we don't even realize that we are enabling or we're participating in the anxiety, right? It's kind of like when we're saying, okay, if I was younger, and I'd say, well, I'm stepping on all these cracks and I'm getting anxious about all the cracks that I've stepped on, and so then my parents are like, okay, well, we're going to make a sidewalk with no cracks in there.
Yeah.
And
or I'm going to let me just carry you across this sidewalk right here.
Right. And so it's like now parents are changing what they're doing. The sidewalk is going to
try to
different.
Decrease or avoid.
To try and help me so that I don't get anxious.
Right.
But it's not really helping me. We're avoiding, and they're enabling for me to actually face that fear of, I can't jump over the crack. Or
I can flat out walk on that crack.
Yeah.
Right. All right. And another one is like answering the same questions over and over again. That's a very common one. Sleep.
Or when a kid doesn't want to go to bed and you're like, okay, I'm going to go lie down with you for 20 minutes.
Or they're scared, right? They're anxious, right?
So it's like 20 minutes every single day. Sometimes it's more than that.
Yeah.
And
it's one thing
hard.
to maybe have that, have a kid be in bed, have a nightmare, maybe once or something like that. They need a little extra comfort. But when it becomes a pattern and it's fueled by anxiety, then we got to choose a different behavior, right?
Right.
Another one is modifications, and modifications is when we change patterns to our daily life because of the child's anxiety.
Yeah. So this modification, it starts with an M. So I just put making changes, making changes in the family because let's say I'm going to have to use the water again. Let's say my kid has anxiety and doesn't want to go into the swimming pools.
Okay.
They're scared of going into the swimming pools. And so none of my other kids can go swimming because I can't go to the swimming pool. So now we're modifying where...
Because we don't want to go even to the pool because we don't want to take a chance of
they're going to be
increasing that kid's anxiety.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't want to put up with the fit, like crying, throwing a fit, it's embarrassing. People staring at us. So I'm just like, okay, we'll go to the park.
Right. So that's what you're modeling or talking about right now, and giving an illustration of, is what parents and families face, when someone's suffering with anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can a caregiver be most helpful, right? And Dr. Lebowitz defines it as support. And support has two parts. Support has...
So I thought we were going to talk about the mayor.
We can. Let's talk about support real quick first.
Okay. So
this is key premise in the book, right? There are two parts.
Yeah.
Acceptance.
Yeah.
And so what is acceptance?
Well, I mean, if my parents were to tell me, hey, you know what, there's a crack coming up ahead. You can step on it if you'd like, or you can jump over it. So accepting that I don't want to go over step on the crack. So they're helping me. They're giving me support.
So acceptance is understanding that what you're feeling is a real feeling, that anxiety is, affecting you in those 4 domains, and not being judgmental about it.
Right.
But trying to show understanding.
Yeah. So they're telling me you can step over it, jump over it, whatever you want to do is fine.
I know that seeing the sidewalk come up ahead and seeing those cracks is causing you to really be anxious and struggle.
Yeah.
And so I just want you to know, I know it's hard for you. But then there's an and, right?
Right. But then as a parent, right? You're talking as a parent. As a parent, you're telling me that I'm capable of doing it, giving me the confidence to go down the sidewalk and actually go and jump.
And that's a second point of support. So it has two parts: acceptance, understanding, and recognizing and acknowledging their feelings. We could give some examples with teens, that, for example, the teen that there's some kids talking about them at school and it's really hurt their feelings. It's embarrassed them. They've come home and they're like, I don't want to go to school tomorrow. And you're, as a parent, you're like, why? And they're like, well, there's some girls or some people at school talking about me and I'm not going to school tomorrow. So the first thing that the caregiver wants to do is to acknowledge those feelings and not be judgmental, but show acceptance. And I know that when people talk about you, it's really hard. It's really embarrassing. It's scary. And I know that you can figure out a way forward and what's best for you to do in this situation. I'm willing to brainstorm with you.
Yeah.
I know it, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it's scary, it's embarrassing, you can still do it because school's important.
And also helping them with resources, like going and go talk to a teacher, you know, in the period that this happened in, knowing who their administrator is, that they can go and talk to somebody.
Right. So let's go. I know you mentioned how parents are a mirror. So let's talk about that for a second.
Okay. I mean, basically, when we think about the mirror, it's what our kids see in us, right? So it's
a reflection of themselves, right? And when they look at us, they see a reflection of themselves in terms of how we react, right? How we respond to them.
So if little Johnny comes in and tells me, hey, Mom, I want to go ride my bike, but I don't know if I can ride it all the way to the park. And I'm like, well, I don't know if you can either, And so they know that I'm doubting and I'm not really confident about them going to the park or
Being able to handle that situation.
And so they're seeing that, okay, my parents not really confident. Maybe I
got something to worry about.
Maybe I can't.
Maybe I can't.
And so it starts that doubt, And so being a mirror, being a parent, we are reflecting the confidence that the kids will display in.
Yeah. So as a kid, when I look at you and hear what you're saying and your facial features and all that, if I'm not hearing support, if I'm not hearing confidence building and support, then I'm going to begin to feel vulnerable. I'm going to feel weak. I'm going to feel like I'm not capable. And so one of the strongest messages we can send to a kid, one is that acceptance so that they feel comfortable sharing with us and are willing to be vulnerable with us. And then the other one is confidence that we believe in them, that they can handle and manage even tough things like anxiety.
Right. And that's what support looks like.
Right.
Like acceptance and confidence equal support.
So we've talked about accommodations, family accommodations, and one part of the book is about mapping out accommodations, and it's where parents, spend a week or two, maybe a little bit longer, and they're looking and they're going, okay, are we making any family accommodations? And if so, what they are. And in Dr. Lebowitz's book, at the back, he has worksheets that will help the family be able to track those accommodations that they notice.
And if you have it on Audible, he gives you a website to go to download those pages.
I love it when the authors do that.
I know.
It's great. Thank you.
Not
Thank you, Dr. Lebowitz, right?
Yes.
And then once they've mapped those accommodations, they want to think about, okay, what accommodation can I reduce so that my child can be, and remember the focus is on the parent and their behavior, but what accommodation can I reduce? And so they're going to think about what's something that really bugs me, because they're going to be really motivated to focus in on that.
Picking one thing only, though.
One thing only. Only focus on one thing. Now, later on, you can add something else, right? But at the beginning, we're going to focus on one accommodation.
Right. But those worksheets are so helpful. It has a plan. It has, how to talk to your teen.
Yeah, it talks about
or your child.
How to make the plan, some pitfalls to watch for. And then I know parents, it's scary. They're afraid, am I going to push my kid to the edge? Am I going to cause my kid to freak out? Am I going to make things worse? And so he helps them know how to present the plan to the kid.
Yeah, very helpful.
And oftentimes, the kid may have some resistance when they find out about that. And he gives some guides, to make it short. Let them know it's only going to take a minute, but that you're going to stick with the plan, and there's a reason for doing that.
Yes.
So what happens when the child argues or throws a fit when the plan's presented?
Well, we don't throw the ball back.
Talk to me about that.
A lot of the times, when the kids get upset, they're going to argue about it. They're going to have, their tantrum or whatever, right? But it's really important that the parent says, I see you, I hear you, but not get involved to the point where they're fighting back and forth, because then it becomes a power thing.
Right.
And that's not what we're trying to do.
So you don't want to enter even in more conversation.
Don't argue back.
You've presented the plan, you've explained the plan, and now it's time to move on. Yep. Stay supportive. Yeah. Praise them for sure.
And success for you means success for your child.
Yeah. And so success for the parent is going to be that they stuck with changing their behavior. They stuck with the plan, right?
Yeah. Even though it's hard, because it can get really hard.
Yeah.
Just don't give up.
And then success for the kid is that they survived the parent making the change. And that in many, 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 many cases, they're not just going to survive,
Right.
but they're going to begin to realize that they can tolerate that discomfort, that they can be uncomfortable but still
Right.
safe, and that they can handle it.
Right. And success for the parent means success that they didn't accommodate. But it's really important when we say accommodate, because I was thinking that can be kind of harsh if there's not an understanding that there needs to be acceptance and confidence built into that.
Right, right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So I love this book. I know you did too. I'm so excited to be bringing this. I want to mention that in many cases, a parent can work through this book and begin to see growth in their child and them as far as how they handle their child's anxiety. Sometimes working through the book and getting a therapist to work beside them is really important too. So each situation is different. But I think everyone will benefit from reading this book.
It's a great book. It's one of my favorites.
So we're going to be coming out with, like Anita said, we're going to be coming out with a book study / group to really help parents make some progress in this area.
Yes.
We'll be getting out that information and inviting you to be a part of it. And we're excited about that. Yeah.
Yes. So follow us on Instagram as well at Heart to Heart Collaborations.
Own your wellness.
Elevate your life.
The content presented in this episode or any others should not be considered therapy and is not prescriptive. If you have questions or concerns about mental health, contact your primary care physician or local mental health provider. The opinions expressed are solely ours and are not representative of our employers or coworkers.